am Alex.
And I'm Shane.
And this is the RPM podcast.
And welcome back to another launch reaction with RacePerMinute. This is number 8 in the last 7 or 8 days. So it's been a busy week for us, but no doubt we're back here again and we're going to dive into the Haas F1 launch reaction, where we'll talk about the new sponsors, 2 new drivers, and the new livery. So lots to discuss, all coming up in today's podcast.
Right, let's kick off with a little discussion about the launch program. Okay, that was it. Let's move on to the discussion of the technical program then. Not really a lot to say about the launch, given that we just had some photos.
It was pretty simple, wasn't it? Yeah. You said in the last podcast that you weren't expecting much from Haas. It could just be a link to an article and a couple of photos because they've got stuff going on elsewhere in their factory. They're probably rushing to get this year's car together. And that's exactly what you said. Whatever you said actually happened in real life. It was just an article with a couple of pictures and away we go.
Yeah, keeping costs down and not having too much pomp around their car. They've done it before. It was really only when they had Rich Energy that they had a big thing about their launch. They've always had it pretty low key. So that made sense. So yeah, let's just jump straight onwards to the technical discussion then, because there's not really anything to say about the launch. When it comes to the technicals, there's not really much to say either, though, because
the
renders that we're looking at are last year's car, as you observed when we were just setting this up. And apart from the changes that are being made to bring the car up to scratch with the 2021 regulations, I believe Gunther Steiner has said that the car has not spent its development tokens. So
they're
as far as we're aware,
2022.
Exactly, yeah, they're just putting everything into 2022. So as far as we're aware, it is last year's car with the changes to meet the regulations. So I think that Haas are about to have a Williams in 2019 season. I have a feeling, especially with 2 rookies in the car, I think they're going to be pretty solidly at the back of the grid this year. But hopefully it will pay dividends for the following year for the team.
Yeah, especially as they're relying on a Ferrari engine as well. And we know last year that was severely underpowered for whatever reason. Hopefully this year they've made some step forwards, but without spending any development tokens at all on their car and just adopting these new regulations, I can't see them being anywhere apart from the back of the grid, especially like you said, they've got 2 brand new drivers coming into the team this year. So it's a massive, and I think Gunther Steiner said it's a massive learning year for Haas. It's going to be it's just a huge development year. It's almost like a year of testing. Forget preseason testing, those 3 days. Haas have got 9 months of pre-2022 testing.
Yeah.
Put their new drivers through their pace and see what they can do. I guess hopefully later on in the year, whilst we're talking about development, they might do what other teams have done in the past and start bringing in slightly different types of parts, new front wings, or test different aero packages to maybe suit their 2022 car and really push for those 2022 regulations.
Yeah, that'd be interesting to see them do some development throughout the season, because, yeah, I don't think we can expect too much from them when it comes to results. The new things to talk about then with Haas, aside from when we get to the livery then, are going to be about their new title sponsor, which is Uralkali or Uralkali. Not 100% certain how to pronounce that, but they're now the title sponsor. They are 20% owned by Uralchem, which itself is owned by Dmitry Mazepin, obviously Nikita Mazepin's father. And this is obviously seems to me to be part of what a lot of people assume is happening, which is that the team is likely to be bought out by Mazepin and have it become a new team. I think that there's obviously we'll talk more about this and about the livery, and that it seems to be more ostensibly a Russian team now than an American team. But I think that that's probably a statement of intent as well, and that they may indeed go out and buy this team, and Gene Haas might be looking for a way out of Formula One anyway.
Yeah,
so
potentially.
We'll see.
The only other thing on the sponsor is it's a multi-year deal. They haven't mentioned how many years for, but the article said it was a multi-year deal. So it's good that they've got sponsors on the car again. The car does look a bit bare, but we'll talk about that in the sponsor on the car. It's a little bit bare, but at least they've got something, and it's not Rich Energy. So hopefully a step forward.
Yeah.
Who knows?
Yeah, it's just that one sponsor. There is a 1&1 as well, I believe, which is
Yeah.
I think maybe some kind of hosting company. I'm not sure. Somebody did mention it, but I don't remember. And there's Under Armour, which I believe is possibly a driver sponsor. I think that might be Mick Schumacher's sponsor. Other than that, it really is just that Ural-Kali sponsor. And that's about it. It is a little bit bare in terms of sponsors.
Gene Haas has also kept his last name on the side of the car again. Almost tradition now for the Haas F1 car that his name was on the side pod. So I wonder how long that will stay on there going forward. If you're talking about a potential takeover, that might look a bit strange without his name on the side.
Yeah, I assume that if they changed it, they wouldn't be called Haas anymore. So
no, exactly.
They'd be,
who knows?
Maybe it'll be, maybe it'll be the Ural-Kali team. I don't even know.
Oh, blimey!
So that might be the way that seems to be the way that it's going. This seems like a pretty strong statement of intent to me.
Yep. Well, the reason we didn't have a launch was because they made a statement, and due to COVID regulations, they couldn't actually get the people together to fire up the car. So the first time we're actually going to see this car, and they're going to unveil it, is on the 12th of March in Bahrain, outside the Haas garage. So it's not that they couldn't, it's not that the car isn't ready. They made that clear in a couple of articles I read. It's just that they couldn't get the people together due to COVID restrictions, which I thought was interesting because we've had other launches with other UK-based teams, and they've all gone to plan. But
yeah,
I
think that's a lie. I think that there's no reason why they couldn't get people together to fire up the car. I find that very hard to believe. So I think that probably they just don't want to do it. That's probably the reason. They're probably just keeping it all as simple as possible, putting everything into 2022 development, and then like, oh yeah, the car's ready. We're just not. They're not going to say we're just not going to show it because that will fuel more speculation. So they'll just say, oh, the car's not ready, just COVID. We can't do it because of COVID, and everyone will go, oh, okay, and that'll be the end of it. It's just the simplest way of going about it, really. So I understand why they've done that, but I don't believe it. I think that's just they don't want to, probably.
Fair enough.
Then there's we've talked about the sponsors. I don't know how much there is to cover otherwise technical wise. Like we've mentioned, these are not actually photos of the car. This is just a render, and we've seen a little bit of that and want to be a little bit wary about saying too much about what we see when we're not actually looking at the car itself. But there isn't really much to say because it's just last year's car with a different livery and some changes that we can't really see.
Yep, there's not much else to say on it at all.
In fact, we can see one of the changes that hasn't been made because you mentioned you could see the floor hasn't been adjusted in the way that it has to be for the new regulations. So it is literally last year's car.
Some other teams have rendered their new liveries on cars which have this year's model. So I just found it strange that they haven't even attempted to do that. They've just got last year's render and slapped this year's livery on it because that is easily identifiable as last year's car because of the floor.
Yeah, absolutely. So technical wise, we're still
not a lot.
Yeah, we're still in the weeds a little bit. Okay, so let's talk about the livery then. What's your initial feelings about this livery?
I'm going to avoid the obvious conversation. We will have that later on. I quite like it. It's a little bit retro. If I forget about flags and sponsors and who's in the team, I think it's a really nice retro livery. We've got the nice old school numbers on it, nice red numbers, which I'm a massive fan of. It's a nice clean car. It's very, due to the lack of sponsors, it is quite clean. Unfortunately, they haven't got a lack of sponsors like Mercedes have. They've just got a lack of, they've just got a lack of sponsors. But I like the blue, red, and white. It looks very clean, shiny. It's just old school, and I'm quite a fan of it. I wouldn't say it's my favourite livery of the year. I'm glad they've changed it up ever so slightly. Yeah, it will do. What about yourself?
I feel much the same. When it first popped up, I was pleasantly surprised that they changed it up as much as they had. And yeah, I just echo your sentiments of it being old school. And yeah, I like the colouring. I think it looks great. I mean, you say it's sort of ignoring the flag and the like, but you can't really. There is no ignoring the fact that there is just a lot of Russian flags on it. They are also the colours of the American flag.
Absolutely, well pointed out.
But obviously...
But it's easier to distinguish a Russian flag on a car with stripes than it is to do an American flag, so...
The thing is, if it just had, like, some stars on it, that would be, like,
easily be identifiable as American.
It's plausible deniability, isn't it? Mm-hmm. But they didn't do that. And it is obviously
they haven't even tried to hide it.
It's in the order of the Russian flag as well, so they've not really made any effort to hide it, like you say. But, Yeah, I quite like it. It's pretty straightforward. It's simple. The lack of sponsors keeps it clean, like you said. Not the greatest livery, but really not that bad. And yeah, I'm looking forward to seeing the real thing.
It's a welcome change for the grid.
Yeah, it is. Yeah, I kind of wish they'd bring back their grey. I liked their grey car. That must have been the first.
Yeah,
season,
you said this
2017.
yesterday. Mm.
So that'd be good. Let's. I suppose we gotta tackle the controversy, if indeed there really is any controversy. I'm not entirely sure what the controversy is. It's a flag on a car.
Yeah. I mean, no one's trying to hide the fact that Nikita's family have heavily invested into this team. It probably helped him get the drive, but we've seen drivers come and go with, we've seen other drivers on the grid with their fathers heavily invest in teams, and they've proven themselves to be good drivers. And obviously, we've not seen Nikita on track yet, but we're not There's no one is hiding away or hiding the fact that Nikita's family have heavily invested into Haas F1, and like you said, maybe in a couple of years' time, it might even be a takeover, or they might buy out that team. And also the new sponsor, which is great, but it's also a Russian sponsor. Russian-based company.
Nothing wrong with that. Russians are allowed to sponsor Formula One teams.
Exactly. So that's why
they have done plenty of times in the past.
Exactly. So obviously there's a lot of talk on social media at the moment about how you've got Nikita and you've got Mick Schumacher, but they've slapped what looks like a Russian flag on the side of the car and on the front of the car. But their main title sponsor is a Russian company. The most of their money comes from a Russian backed sponsorship. I don't know. It's just, people just need to get over it, if I'm being honest. It's a car, it looks all right. Doesn't matter where the money comes from. I don't know. Alex, what's your thoughts on this before I dig myself a hole?
I mean, I'm not being completely naive here. Obviously, I do understand why people are being, feeling very strongly about this.
Yes.
And as you mentioned, yeah, the money is obviously mostly coming from a Russian sponsor, a Russian-backed sponsor, which itself is probably backed by, has some kind of backing from the state, I'm sure. I don't think either of us are particularly qualified to get into a conversation about Russian oligarchs. But
absolutely not.
Suffice to say that it is clearly a statement of intent that it's kind of only a little bit of an American team anymore, in that it's largely being financed by Russian backers, and so they feel entitled to put their flag on it. Now, where the controversy kicks in, I suppose, is that the FIA have there's basically the Russian sports people are banned from competing in major sporting events for 2 years. It was originally 4 years, but now it's 2 years because of doping and all this sort of stuff. And that then it's got scaled back to 2 years. But also, Russian competitors, people of Russian nationality, can compete in major sporting events, but they can't fly the flag and they can't play their national anthem. So in the incredibly unlikely event, this should have been one of our bold predictions. imagine the furore if this had been one of our predictions. But in the incredibly unlikely event that Nikita Mazepin were to win a race, they wouldn't be able to play the Russian national anthem. I don't know what they would
Or display the flag.
Yeah, or they wouldn't be able to display the flag. It would have to be like a neutral flag or something. I don't know exactly what they would do. But the FIA have allowed Haas to have this livery because it technically doesn't break the rule of them flying
It's all
under
been
the
signed
flag.
off.
It's
all been signed off.
They will have seen this. The FIA will have seen this. This won't be a surprise to them. I mean, we talked about DAS and how that wasn't a surprise to the FIA. They will have known about this. But as far as I'm concerned, banning sports competitors from flying their flag and hearing the anthem is a pretty pathetic punishment anyway. So the fact that they've just found a loophole and decided to stick their flag on it anyway, there
we go.
It's a flag on a car. I don't really know what else to say. Much gnashing of teeth has already been done about Mazepin, and I wouldn't worry. We're not even going to see the guy. This car's going to be at the back of the grid the whole season, I would bet, and we're not even going to hear anything from the guy. So it's not really worth getting that worked up about, I don't think.
Absolutely. And like Alex says, we appreciate, why there's some controversy on social media regarding, Nikita and his sponsors. However, we've got to realize that the Haas F1 team is a huge amount of people There's thousands, or if not 1,000 people working on this car in the factory.
I think there's
keeping the
about
factory
200, 300 people working for Haas, I think, something like that.
Oh, there we go. You've got 300 people whose jobs are solely supplied by sponsorship money. Haas haven't made any money through Haas haven't made any significant money through Formula One because of where they're finishing. So most of their income comes from sponsorship. So the people who are working day in, day out to get this car ready, the staff back at the factory, the people who travel around the world with this team are being paid only because the team can generate sponsors. So I know there are issues around certain drivers and certain sponsors, but I'm glad that these sponsors are here because it means that this team can stay in business. It was only 6 or 7 years ago we've seen Manor and Caterham leave F1. Two great teams have left F1 due to lack of finances. Let's not go down to a 9-car grid. That would be awful. Let's keep Haas in there. I know their sponsorship money comes from a slightly controversial means of method or whatever you guys think, but that money is keeping a couple of hundred people employed and doing the job they love. So that's how I see it. I know it's not always the best thing in the world, but we're keeping a team on the grid, which is the most important thing.
Yeah, just to add on to that as well, like obviously, as you mentioned, we understand why people feel very strongly about it. I think it's just more we find it hard to get as worked up about it, really, because it's not something I feel particularly qualified to wade in on, and I don't really want to start having all these strident opinions about what we should and shouldn't be doing in such a situation. Everything is such a long conversation. There's so much to talk about, but I don't feel prepared to enter any of it, really. So,
and that's why you won't see the Race Per Minute Twitter account get involved in any of these kind of conversations. We're here to talk about light-hearted stuff.
Not unless we feel like we've got something to say. Not unless we feel like there is something that we can say about it.
But as of the 4th of March, we haven't had anything to say about it. So that's why. And we just want to stay out of this and keep it lighthearted and keep it about Formula One.
Yeah, I've seen it said a few times that it's worth a price worth paying to have one fewer team on the grid if it means no more Mazepin on the grid, and that's just very glib to me. I can't accept that. That's so over the top. And you already mentioned the fact that there's all these people's jobs at stake, and also Haas won't necessarily be that way forever. Mazepin might only last one season. I mean, it seems pretty unlikely given that he's got his dad in back in, so he'll probably, much like Stroll, he'll probably stick around. But I don't know. I'm just more interested in seeing what the guy is capable of doing on the track. And if he does do something stupid again, then I hope that he will be held accountable for it. And I'm pretty sure that he will. We've already mentioned before that he will be under intense scrutiny. Nikita Mazepin will be under very intense scrutiny in Formula One. And I think it's good that people are calling him out on it. And
absolutely.
But I don't see what else can be done. They're not going to sack him. I don't see why they should just get rid of him because the crowd is baying for his blood. Like, come on, like there's no need for that. Let's just see what happens in this season. And if he is an absolute arse throughout the season, then we can call him out on it and we can complain about that. But I don't really have much else to say other than that, really. And I find it very difficult to get extremely worked up about the whole thing.
Well, like you said, his past actions have created this massive spotlight from the public and the world media. So for a driver which will probably be finishing in 19th or 20th place throughout the whole season, who probably wouldn't get much media attention at all, will be under the spotlight, and he'll have to carefully choreograph each word he says in every interview to make sure that he can just slip under the radar and keep doing what he's doing this year and hopefully, race well.
Yeah, we'll see what they're actually made of when they get to the track. My betting is probably not that much, and we'll see a Williams in 2019 like performance from them. I would have thought that's the way it seems to go, and they're pinning it all on 2022, and we'll find out what happens when we get there. All right, that's the Haas VF-21. What do you think of the livery here? Do you like it? Do you not like it? I'm sure we might hear some strong opinions about this one. If you have got them, then do let us know if we've missed anything and send them to us at RacePerMinute on Twitter. You can also get in touch at RacePerMinute.com. And if you're on YouTube, you can comment below. Do let us know what you think. If you enjoyed this episode, then give us a rating or a like wherever you're listening to us or watching us. And if you like what you do, then please consider subscribing for more wherever it is that you're getting Race Per Minute, either on YouTube or on your podcast provider. And if you really want to support the show, the best way to do that and to help us keep the content coming and keeping it high quality and bag yourself some lovely rewards you can donate as little as £1 a month at patreon.com/RacePerMinute. Thanks very much for joining us. Only 2 left to go now. So we will see you for Williams very soon.
See you next time.